Warmly welcome. Good morning. Great to see so many people here in Lumituli Auditorium and also online today. This morning is truly exciting for us as we are publishing the first research results of the Creative Leap project. The whole name goes Creative Leap, creativity as a competitive advantage in business. My name is Riikka Mäkikoskela. I work for Radical Creativity here at Aalto University, and I act as a project manager in this research project.
And my name is Muhonen. I am the coordinator for Creative Leap. And welcome everyone to Aalto University. We have a very inspiring program today, also interesting speakers too. I hope you all noticed the program on your seats when you arrived. There's more information about the research on the program and about our speakers as well. For the people who are joining online, you can find more information about the research in a link that is under the video in the description box.
When we started planning the research project in 2023, we really took a leap into the unknown. For 2 years, we have worked intensively to validate models of individual and organizational creativity and research both the everyday creativity practices in companies and the economic impact of creativity. Our partners have been great. Fiskars, Kemira, Marimekko, Posti, Raisio, Yellow Method, the Finnish Innovation Fund Sitra, and the Finnish Tax Administration. The project is funded by Business Finland and Next Generation EU.
We have an action-packed morning, so without further ado, let's get started. I would like to welcome on stage for Dean's Dialogue, Tuomas Auvinen, the Dean of School of Arts, Design and Architecture, as well as Timo Korkeamäki, Dean of School of Business. Please, welcome.
Good morning. I'm Tuomas Auvinen, the Dean for the School of Arts, Design and Architecture, but also wearing a couple of other hats today, the PI for the Creative Leap Research Project and the champion of radical creativity for Aalto University. So on my behalf and on behalf of the School of Arts, Design and Architecture, Aalto Arts among friends, I welcome you this morning.
And my name is Timo Korkeamäki. I am the Dean of Aalto University School of Business, and it is my pleasure to also wish you all welcome on this nice November morning here.
Radical creativity is one of Aalto University's strategic themes. The other two are entrepreneurial mindset and solutions for sustainability. And this research project is part of the activities of our radical creativity, among other things. But of course, as we are a university, rooting our strategy into research is important, and therefore I'm really happy that we now have this event publishing the results of the Radical Leap research project.
I'm super excited to be here. We talk at Aalto a lot about the collaboration between business, technology, and art and design, and I'm so happy to see that it actually gets to be more than just text and talk. We have actual results to show today. I think this connection, especially between creativity and business, they are quite unique competitive advantages for us. I mean, the topic and the headline of today's event is creativity as a competitive advantage in business. I see creativity as a competitive advantage in business education as well, and I'm so happy to be here and seeing also very rich and high-level collaboration that we have encountered in this project between biz and arts.
Thank you, Timo. Art and creativity have an intrinsic value in the society. But on top of that, we also have a lot of impact, especially with creativity, to the whole society. We are living in an environment where a lot of big changes and challenges are happening, and the only way to really deal with these paradigm shifts is to challenge the assumptions that we have, go to the root, radus, therefore radical creativity, and really look for new solutions. I've been a vivid believer in the power of creativity also outside the traditional creative fields and art for a long period of time. And one approach to that is, how do we lead for creativity? And this topic is something that will be discussed today further, as we now have research implications of why it is important to really lead for creativity and how big a difference that actually makes in the business results. So I'm really happy to see that this really a passion of mine being discussed and validated in some of the discussions today.
Well, Tuomas is talking about how we lead for creativity. I'm talking about how we use creativity to lead. And I think we all hear and see in the media about lack of growth in Finland. To me, that's a serious call for looking for new ways of doing things. And creativity, that's what it's all about. You know, looking for ways in which we can improve our activity by thinking about leading business in a new way. That's creativity to me, and that's why I'm particularly happy about this collaboration. So indeed, I look forward to learning the results today as well, as many of you do. So Tuomas, what's been the most crucial finding for you about creativity?
Well, for me personally, the link between creativity and the business results that Eva Vilkkumaa will be talking a little bit later has been the key finding. I've been the guy for the last 15, 20 years who pushes out a lot of warm air and waves his hands and says creativity is important for the business. And quite often in these discussions, whether that's on the board level or the CEO executive level, the question is, okay, but how does it transfer into the business results? And now we have been developing the methodology of really looking into that relationship. And Eva will be presenting some astonishing findings already at this point. So me, coming from the School of Art Design and Architecture, I'm really excited to see the link to the actual numbers. So it's not so much about the soft stuff, but it really is about the core issues in business and how creativity actually influences that. So that, to me, is one of the exciting things. There are other things as well, but I think this is the one that really got me excited when I saw the graphs for the first time. How about you, Timo?
I think I'll give a little bit broader answer. So creativity was introduced into Aalto University's strategy a few years ago, and not just creativity, radical creativity. And I must say, I was not the only one at School of Business who was a little bit suspicious. You know, if you're especially working in accounting, business law, my background is finance, you know, your first reaction is, no thanks, you know, we don't do creativity, we're not allowed to. But this whole project of radical creativity and this research project included, they have literally opened my eyes. And the thing that I've gotten out of this whole thing is, if you do science, no matter what kind of science, you have to be creative. I mean, if you are producing new knowledge, you cannot do everything the way everybody has always done it. You have to find new ways, look for new solutions, look for new ways to analyze data, etc., etc. So indeed, at School of Business also, we are very happy to be radically creative. So that's been my big learning here. And I guess with that, we're going to conclude and go to the real program of the day. So thank you all for being here, and I look forward to learning about the results.
Enjoy the event. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Tuomas and Timo. Next, we'll dive into research and the research results. I would like to invite Mark Runco on stage. Mark is a visiting professor here at Aalto University and also the director of Global Institute of Creative Thinking. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Yes, my name is Mark. I'm a visiting professor here at Aalto University, and I'm thrilled. I really am happy to be a part of the Radical Creativity Program. I've been a visiting professor for over a year now and have a few years ahead of me, and again, I'm very happy about it and really thrilled to be a part of this program. I have worked on the Creative Leap program for some time, doing analyses and mostly doing analyses. And we do have specific results to offer today. I'm lead off today because I have been working on creativity for a long time. I was lucky to find it as an undergraduate, a class on creativity, and it distracted me from sports. And that is 5 decades ago. I have studied creativity ever since. Perhaps for that reason, my job today is really broad strokes, to think about creativity and to talk about creativity in a broad way. I promise we will get to the research findings. We will get to creativity for competitive advantage. We will get to some practical matters. But I'm going to start with a few minutes of, as I said, broad strokes. And I'm actually going to start with my second slide, creative people. Why creativity? And of course, we're here to talk about competitive advantage, but this may be my key message. There is so much more to creativity than business. It is an influence on each of our lives every day. And it is a driver, as you can see, of social, cultural, technological advance. It plays a key role in all of those things. And at the other extreme, it plays an important role in each of our lives, what's now being called everyday creativity, or little c creativity, the creativity that we need just to get through the day, to cope with minor hassles and so on. It is an interdisciplinary process and offers interdisciplinary advantages. You can see science and mathematics there, but you could go on and on with the formal domains. But again, for my money, what is at least as important is the informal domain of everyday creativity and the little c. You may not know that creativity is related to health. There's very good evidence about both on a social and personal level that creativity contributes to health. And it's excellent research looking at T cells, which improve when individuals have an opportunity for creative self-expression. Experimental research, improvement in T cells, which means your immune system becomes increasingly efficient. Creativity is related to physical and psychological health. I'm a cognitive psychologist, and I respect and value psychological health, which is kind of a tautology. But just as creativity feeds into physical health, perhaps even more clearly, it feeds into what's called self-actualization and a balance in our emotional and intellectual lives. Another thing that may not be as obvious is creativity contributes just to the richness and quality of our lives. For a while, I lived in Georgia. I don't know if any of you, perhaps many of you have been to Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, Georgia has 73 streets named Peachtree. Kind of boring, kind of difficult, not much variety, not much, forgive me if there are any Georgians out there, but it really kind of drove me nuts. In fact, I live very close to the corner of Riverbanks and Riverbanks. I don't know how the postal people delivered mail. Creativity offers variety and flexibility. It gives texture and richness to our lives. It also, and here's another one that's maybe subtle, but as an educator, I think it's very important that creativity contributes to learning. Students are not really learning if they memorize something. There's a wonderful book called To Understand is to Invent. And I would say to understand is to create. People only understand things when they create the understanding for themselves. You can be told something, but you have to put a little effort into connecting it with what you already know in your life and your expectations. And when you make those connections, and that is a creative act, you are creating understanding. That's real learning, far more powerful than mere memorization. What is creativity? I'm arguing that it's a very important thing. Well, I like to talk about what it is and what it is not. Creativity plays an unambiguous role in the arts, and the arts are unambiguously creative. But years ago, fortunately, we decided that and demonstrated that creativity plays a role in other domains. There was, for many years, an art bias. And people, including educators, thought that all creativity is in the arts. Fortunately, we have gone beyond that and recognized the diverse domains. Similarly, creativity is often equated with problem solving, and that makes a good deal of sense. Many problems are best solved creatively, but not all problem solving involves creativity. And not all creativity involves problem solving. And I can jump back to art there because art is often not solving problems. This kind of gets complicated because many artists are expressing themselves and exploring, but in their own aesthetic view, they are kind of solving problems. So that is a little bit complicated. There is overlap between creativity and problem solving, grand problems that are facing society, but again, everyday problems and hassles as well. Creativity is defined in the social and the behavioral sciences as involving two things: originality and effectiveness. And that definition has been useful for quite some time, ever since there has been a science of creativity, which I'd put back to about the 1960s. This is called the standard definition of creativity: originality and effectiveness. Neither of those things by themselves accounts for or can account for creativity. Effectiveness, you can solve a problem effectively, certain problems, just by remembering previous answers. There's no originality there. That's not creative. You may solve the problem in an effective way. Similarly, and perhaps more surprising, originality is not sufficient for creativity. Sometimes things are original because they should be. They're crazy. They're useless. Creativity involves an interaction between originality and effectiveness. This is kind of an important issue, especially for business, because what I'm talking about is an interaction or perhaps a ratio. And in some fields, originality is primary for creativity. And of course, that's in the artistic direction. In business, for innovation, the ratio may shift. Effectiveness becomes primary. And for true innovation, there needs to be some newness. But you don't get anywhere if you don't have the effectiveness. So it's a matter of proportion, if you will, with different fields varying in terms of that ratio or proportion. Whoops, I am not going where I want to go. Fortunately, I mentioned the science being several decades old. Methods have been developed. Creativity is very challenging to assess, but there is now a ton of very good research, even a meta-analysis, which I picked out just to give an example. A meta-analysis is an analysis of analyses, and there have been so many studies on what environments in organizations are conducive to creativity that now we can analyze the analyses, hence analysis. And one very good study from the Creativity Research Journal, which is there on the right, demonstrated that of all of the environmental influences, positive interpersonal exchanges may be the most important. And that's based on tens of thousands of individuals in a slew of individual investigations. Also important, intellectual stimulation. Those were the top two environmental organizational factors in a very powerful meta-analysis of creativity. We've gone quite a ways forward with assessment. There's a handbook from 2024 giving the full range of assessment opportunities. This is one of the reasons I've been very happy to be at Aalto, because the Creative Life and Creative Work projects have taken the assessment of creativity forward by developing a survey, or perhaps I should say 2 surveys, one for individual perceptions and one on organizations. And that is, in fact, my transition now. I'm going to bring up my colleague, and she's going to go into the details of those 2 surveys. Susanna?
And please.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Good morning, everybody. Do you know how to develop creativity in your organizations? And do you know how to improve it? Yes, so my name is Susanna Rahkamo. I'm from Yellow Method. We measure creativity. And I'm delighted to have Annika Boström-Kumlin from Raisio here on stage with me.
Likewise.
And Raisio was one of the organizations taking part in the Creative Leap. And I'm really glad that you came on stage with me.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. And I will first give a little bit of overview of what we did in this project before then turning into discussion with Annika. The work package 1 focused on validating the individual and organizational assessments. We were measuring those individual and organizational creativity. That project we did with Professor Runco. In addition to that, we also wanted to understand and strengthen creativity and innovation readiness in the organizations, supporting creativity on the individual level and organizational level. And we started with individual creativity. Here we have 5 categories that we measured. And each of those categories, they define how personal creativity or personal capabilities, how they amplify or sometimes interfere creative performance. On organizational side, we also had 5 categories that we measured. But we then used and actually divided them, each of the categories, to 5 elements. This made us a framework for 5 to 5 framework, how we call it. And that gives a very detailed picture of how organizations enable creativity of their people. So how well the people in those organizations can use their creative capabilities. We then summarized the results into one number. And that one number is because we wanted to talk the language of the leaders. You can very easily capture where your organization is and how it develops with time. But we didn't stop with the one number. By the way, here is the 25 organizations we analyzed, the average and the lowest and the highest index that we created. But we didn't stop here. Behind the one number is really the comprehensive structure of to see why the organization is where it is. And here's an example of the leadership category, leadership for creativity. And there is all the elements separately shown, and those amplifying things and interfering aspects. And you can see in this is the average of all the companies we analyzed. So here the trust is an amplifying, it's strengthening thing for creativity. And then on the other side, the resources for innovation is actually hindering the most in this leadership category for creativity. But then, finally, we then offered all of those organizations really practical, actionable insights, how they can put this results into practice. We offered them activities that were based on their strategy, and activities for the short term, mid-term, and long term, so that they can step by step develop creativity in their organization. So this was a short overview of what we and how we approach the research project, how we measured creativity, and how we helped the organizations to put the results to action. And now I would like to turn to Annika for her experience about this project. So, how have you actually used these insights and results in your work?
Yeah. So maybe a couple of words of context first. At Raisio, we are just now implementing a new strategy. We're on a big change journey. We want to transform ourselves from a bit of a Finnish legacy company into a even more innovative European food company, and innovation mentioned. So this came in at the perfect time, giving us a real good understanding of what it takes, and giving us also a sort of base measurement for now our journey, and something that we can return to and see how we develop against. And then, of course, a lot of practical insights on how to actually lead creativity. So it was the perfect timing for us. We're very grateful to have been part of the project. Yeah.
Oh, that's happy to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there something that surprised you, something that you didn't know or didn't recognize what this project brought?
Yeah, I think the one thing that really was eye-opening to us, especially now in this phase and this package of the project, was the importance of the organizational creativity and the leadership and the enablers. So really focusing on that and how to get this happening on a daily basis. And I think especially in a food industry context, where this is an industry that traditionally is very much focused on quality and safety and process and you know, volume, and those are the drivers. So for us in that industry context, really eye-opening to also see how we need to work very consciously with enabling these things to be able to move forward on our innovation journey. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it kind of opened the eyes for the where you can go.
Yes.
So how has this kind of measurement helped you then strengthen creativity? Do you have your like kind of an innovation culture in practice? What would you say? Like kind of
two things. Probably. I think first, it's been eye-opening for our leadership. So really how to get this into the daily practice of how we work, how to make sure that there's room and space and air around us and we meet and there's serendipity and all of this. So for the leaders, really important, and we're only starting that journey now. And then the other one is for the innovation culture, where we already, during a few years, have been working very consciously with increasing stuff like ecosystems and innovation sprints and co-creation and this type of thing. So this will fuel that even more. Yeah.
Yeah, creative, like leadership is very important. So it's good to hear that it's kind of resonated with the leaders.
Very eye-opening on that level, and especially as we now understood that that the organizational and the leadership part is so important. It's much more important for the results than the individual creativity, which in our case was actually really good, and we knew that. But the enabling of it and how to systematically do that, I think, has been the biggest learning for us. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So when you look at the results, so how well did they actually picture what the Raisio, where Raisio is? Is it giving like kind of the true picture? What do you feel?
Surprisingly well, and maybe also good for you to know as scientists that actually the results that we had back, when we looked at them, they reflect really well what we already see in our staff surveys. And other insights from our organization, which is exactly coming back to this. We have a great deal of individual creativity, but we haven't been great at enabling the time and the space and the sort of the structures for it. So it reflected it perfectly, but we got more tools now to actually do something about it. So that was a big benefit for us.
Yeah, so those actionable insights kind of give you a direction where to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yes. That's great. If you summarize in one phrase, kind of what this quantifying creativity has offered you, so what would that be?
I would say that it has given us, and I'm coming back to the very first speakers, the needed proof that this actually is a result driver. So the needed scientific proof for that, and then it's given us measurable KPIs to be able to develop our journey moving forward.
Yeah,
those would be the things.
What you measure and what you kind of are aware of that you can develop.
Yes, yeah. What you measure gets done, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Mark, Susanna, and Annika. We'll continue with the research results and dive into everyday creativity. I would like to welcome on stage our researchers, Astrid Huopalainen and Anna-Paula Lafaire, and from Marimekko, Minna Kemel-Kutvonen and Sanna-Kaisa Niikko.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ida. It's really lovely to be here. And first, I want to acknowledge research as a collective effort. So thanks to my brilliant team, Anna-Paula and Maria, who's online now. And also thanks to all the companies. It's been really nice to collaborate with you. So in this qualitative work package on everyday creativity, we do exactly as the name suggests, look into the everyday micro-level actions and processes through which creativity emerges or fails to emerge in companies. So we understand creativity as relational, it's collective, it's processual. So this really means that we look into all kinds of everyday encounters at work that could spark creativity and could make creativity happen. And what we in this work package want to emphasize that we should not underestimate the power of the everyday in empowering people collectively. We should also not forget the importance of aesthetic, embodied knowledge, the importance of humane and human encounters in the workplace. And this is also why we need to look very closely at how companies can create the best possible conditions that enable creativity to happen. So this is the leadership question, how to enable creativity. And it's not a linear process that can be managed, but it also has to be about making room for the unexpected, however uncomfortable that might be. So what our results emphasize is that creativity requires time, it requires spaces, aesthetic knowing, this moving back and forth, experimenting, learning through difficulties, trials and errors, and also this kind of failing. So we have to normalize the failing, even though it's not nice from a business perspective because it's costly, but we simply need to do that. And creativity is also what we can show inherently material. It's messy, so it's material in the sense that it involves hard work, blood, sweat, and tears in that sense, but also materialities in the form of creativity supporting spaces, tools, practical kind of things that you really work with. So in this work package, we emphasize the importance of a collective culture that people genuinely feel that they want to belong to. And this is where creativity emerges, when we can kind of assemble different knowledges, different skills, different abilities, different resources in a culture that invites and actually values such differences. So trust and connection become really, really important in fostering creativity. So we need cultures where people see and feel that they're genuinely heard and they're genuinely seen. So that sparks collective creativity as well. And we can also show that creativity, it requires courage from everyone in the organization. And this means the courage of speaking up, the courage of questioning established norms, the courage to ask the silly questions, sometimes to fool around a little bit, and actually the courage to be vulnerable and listen with care. So here also leadership has an important role in inviting this kind of courage in a culture where there is psychological safety. So creative leadership in that way kind of gently pushes people outside of their comfort zones. It gives trust to the people in the organization, so there's this safety in place, and we give people the opportunity to act with courage, and we celebrate failures in these kinds of cultures. And what our results also want to emphasize is really these preconditions for creativity that are crafted in the everyday. So again, the everyday is important. And things that actually might look small and quite mundane are really important in creating possibilities of doing things differently, like relating differently, thinking differently, acting differently, and this is where novelty can emerge in different ways. So the liminal spaces are important, the spaces in between meetings, the coffee breaks are important. All these matter in a culture that fosters creativity. So we can also see that creativity emerges outside of formal meetings and project timelines. And finally, the point I want to make that we can show is that joy is an important affective glue that fosters a sense of belonging in companies. And this can be understood as having fun at work, but it's also something more. So it relates to creating certain atmospheres, certain finding meanings in your work. It relates to the sense of community and the sense of freedom to explore. So this is also why we can't treat creativity only as a tool, because that would easily kill the joy in the organization. So if we just impose top-down structures and rigid processes, we might eat away the joy of the people to explore and to do self-directed actions in that sense. So companies need to think about these creating joyful rhythms because that actually matters. So as a concluding point, I want to say that creativity needs time, it needs space, it needs encounters. And the key for companies is to think about how to create possibilities for this. And now we will hear from Marimekko, who can give us some insights to this.
Thank you so much. So before we go into the discussion, a few words about us. So Marimekko is a Finnish design house and one of the first lifestyle design brands in the world. And this is where it all started from. This is Armi Ratia, our visionary founder, who had a vision to bring joy, energy, and fresh ideas into post-war Finland. And actually, that is still very much what we want to do. Our mission is to empower people to be happy as they are and bring joy to their everyday lives through bold prints and colors.
And our visionary, Armi Ratia, our founder, she has the idea in the beginning that Marimekko could have been anything. It can be like a modern chats or ice cream barrel or even flower shop. anyhow, today we are operating in the textile and fashion industry, considering 3 different categories, starting from the ready-to-wear, bags and accessories, and of course, home category, where one important part there is printed fabrics, what we are still printed in Helsinki, Herttoniemi, in our own mill. And then, of course, we are working around the prints and colors. Art printmaking is definitely our unique DNA. It's like we have a living archive where we have almost already 4,000 different designers created during the different decades, together with fantastic, versatile designers.
And of course, we're very much a creative house. We're also very much a business, and we're operating in a very global scale. So our main markets are Northern Europe, North America, and the Asia-Pacific region. And we approach all the different areas of the world through our key cities. So today, Marimekko operates in approximately 40 countries. We have an online store in 39 countries, and the latest addition to the key cities is Paris that we added now a couple of weeks ago.
And then, lastly, I really would like to say that Marimekko is mainly like aesthetic thinking turned into intentional action, and that is something that we are doing every day.
Yeah,
Perfect.
so now we are so excited that you are here, and we will like to ask you some questions.
I can
So
somewhere.
I think that so much on the discourse and on the research literature on creativity is this overemphasis on novelty and the new. But we have seen when we were doing research that the creative process in Marimekko is a lot on being in an active dialogue with the past, the present, and the vision for the future. So how do you integrate this interplay in your creative process?
Yes, that is a fantastic question. To be honest, Marimekko has always lived in the time. As a design itself, we are always looking towards the future. As I already, and how that really see in today, that you really have to know where you are come from, if you, in order. Or you have to really know where you are come from in order to see where you are going and what's to take the next. And that is something that I believe this, when you know where you come from, it's help you to take the next steps. And it's give your roots give you the clarity and also the confidence to take the next steps. And I believe it's definitely the dynamic between past and future. And how that really see in nowadays in our life, that as I earlier mentioned, that we have like a waste archive including more than 3,500 patterns or designs, that it's definitely something that inspired us constantly and also encouraged us to create new. And it is not just a history, it's definitely living source of creativity.
Yeah. Yeah, and the second question that we have is, how do you keep your global vision, because you are an international business, so that kind of frames the orientation of the creative work that you do. However, how do you combine that vision with the everyday sensibility for the aesthetic knowledge in the doing, while you are taking all these steps?
Maybe I can start and you can then continue. Of course, we're very much open to what is happening in the world, and I think that needs to be the starting point for whatever we create, even though, of course, we're always true to the roots of the company. And as you saw, we are very much globally present, and we are also very ambitious in terms of growing the brand. So we really need to be open to hearing the customer and what they need, and what is the problems in their everyday life that we can actually solve. And of course, that can be done through creativity.
Yeah, as Sanna-Kaisa mentioned, that we are offering the everyday solutions through the beauty for people. So that is definitely that we need to know where we are going, and then we are able to also use the knowledge that we have based on our roots, and then it gives us a lot. And it's, as I also mentioned, that is definitely a dialogue between past and future.
Yeah.
Thank you. And we saw that without courage, there is no creativity. And we know from research how important it is to learn and accept failures. But how would you see this relationship between finding joy in the everyday and having the courage to experiment and also to fail? And how do you cultivate this kind of culture with a high creative ambition that at the same time empowers people collectively?
Well, I think we kind of believe that without creativity, there is nothing. We're very much a creative house, and the whole kind of brand essence and the whole kind of content that we create is created through creativity. And that's why we very much kind of hold the culture of creativity very much close to our hearts. And we don't think that creativity is something that only exists in like traditionally creative teams. So of course, design, marketing, brand are like very much creative themes, but we believe that equally creativity lives in sales, or it can live in product development. It's like Minna also said, it's like solving the everyday problems, like finding new kinds of solutions, opening your mind to new ideas.
Yeah, I believe it's a strong part of this thinking is definitely that you have to be a good listener. You have to be a good thinker. Then you have to be a good discussioner. And then you have to be good with the actions and ready. So those capabilities give your readiness to action.
Thank you so much. These are really important insights, and they also reflect back to the findings, I think, in a nice way. So what you also emphasize is creativity as everybody's responsibility, and everybody has the agency to be creative in the company. And again, the importance of culture and the importance of listening, of discussing and taking action. So thank you. It's been a delight to collaborate with you. And I think we can give over the floor to Riikka, and thanks. Thank you
so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Astrid, Anna-Paula, Minna, and Sanna-Kaisa for the wonderful discussion. Now I think I am really relieved at the moment. We are not behind the schedule. We will have the break next. This was maybe like my biggest problem today, how to keep the schedule. But thank you, everybody. We are doing fine. So now maybe a little bit moving, inspiring conversations, maybe more coffee. Toilets are upstairs as well. And then I would like to ask you to be back here in the Lumituuli auditorium at 10:05. So our inspiring program continues sharply at 10:05. Welcome back then. We will continue with the research results. Now we will present you the last one, but they are not the least one. And for that, I would like to invite Eeva Vilkkumaa, Niina Mallat, Petteri Naulapää of Posti, the Finnish postal company, to the stage. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Riikka. Very nice to see everyone here. So this is again a joint effort presented now by myself, but work package number 3 also included Professor Matti Rossi, who is here in the audience, and of course senior fellow Niina Mallat, and then master student, now doctoral student Maria Semenova, who could not be here today, but did a large part of the work. So let's get started with the results. So the objective of our research within this project was actually to study the link between creativity and financial performance. So for this purpose, we looked at publicly available data on the financial performance of our partner companies, and specifically we're looking at EBITDA margin. And we wanted to eliminate the impact of differences between industries, so we were actually just looking at whether the companies were overperforming or underperforming the EBITDA margin of their respective industry. And then we used different kinds of data analytics methods to examine this link between the creativity categories, so the surveys presented by Susanna earlier related to individual and organizational creativity, and then this financial performance aspect. And specifically, we use 3 kinds of methods. We use clustering analysis, we use correlation analysis, as well as decision tree analysis. So let's get started with this. So first, here is an illustration of the results of our clustering approach. So in this approach, we actually clustered the companies into 4 different categories. And here we included not only the partner companies in this project, but also companies in the Creative Working Life 2030 project, which has been conducted earlier. So we wanted to increase our sample size a little bit. So we did this clustering with respect to the average performance of the companies in the individual creativity and organizational creativity surveys. So we were looking at the sample averages of these figures, and then you could land in the sort of high performance or above average performance in terms of individual and organizational creativity. So that's basically this cluster here, or you could be in this sort of below average performance in both category, or then in these 2 different categories where you would have sort of high performance on one dimension, but below average performance on the other. So we mapped all of our companies into these clusters, and the figure also shows by green and red color whether the company, in terms of financial outcomes, was overperforming its industry or underperforming. So overperformance, outperformance, that's depicted by green color, and underperformance by red color. So this is maybe the overall result of our project. So as you can see, if you are in this high individual creativity, high organizational creativity cluster, you are much more likely to overperform your industry in terms of financial performance, or EBITDA margin here, than when you are in this developing individual creativity, developing organizational culture cluster. So here the probability is 5 in 7, whereas here it is 1 in 6. So this is basically the indication that we got from the data, that there is a positive link between creativity and financial performance. And it seems, at least based on our attended results, to be quite significant. But then moving on to correlation analysis, so we also computed correlations between these individual categories, so individual creativity categories and organizational creativity categories with financial performance. And without showing you all the numbers, the basic result was that the correlation between organizational creativity, or as we call it here, creative culture, and financial performance is much stronger than the correlation between individual creativity and financial performance. And I don't know if this was surprising. It's also aligned with many the results of the other work packages as well, but this seemed to us to be quite significant. Finally, to our last analysis family. So here we have the decision tree. So here we're kind of using this, it's a machine learning method, using this method to kind of predict whether you're an outperformer in terms of EBITDA margin or an underperformer based on this survey data. And we were looking to identify the most important categories of the survey as predictors. And we found that the leadership amplifier category was the most crucial predictor. So if you have a higher than average score in leadership amplifiers, then you move towards this part of the tree where there are more outperformance boxes. And then if you have lower than average, then you move towards this direction. However, even if the leadership value is below average, if you have people with very strong creative identities, then you can still kind of end up in the overperformance box. But on the other hand, even under good leadership, if the atmosphere is not that good, then there's still risk of underperforming. But that's, in a nutshell, our quantitative results. Now we'll have Niina Malla to tell you a bit about generative AI and creative work.
Thank you, Eva. Hi, everybody. In this last piece of work, we basically wanted to see how people use generative AI as part of creative work. And to study this, we interviewed 24 people in Creative Leap partner companies in the spring of this year. We found that the use of generative AI varied notably between the sort of individuals and also between professions. So it was more used in sales and marketing, IT and business development, where people worked more with text and code and things like that. And it was less used in product design and research, where people used and worked with materials and flavors and scientific formulas. The attitudes towards Gen AI were mostly positive, but then when we had detailed discussions, we discovered these 5 paradoxical tensions that I'll next talk more in detail. So the first 2 paradoxes we found sort of explained the non-use of Gen AI as part of creative work. And the first paradox, the co-creation paradox, contrasts the human creativity, where humans are able to take inspiration from the existing world and then using creative process are able to sort of create novel and useful outputs, whereas this was contrasted with the Gen AI regeneration of existing knowledge that doesn't necessarily sort of reach this kind of creative leap that humans are able to take. The next paradox, collaboration paradox, contrasts then the human contextual understanding, which is very nuanced and detailed in terms of scientific knowledge or understanding of the materials or understanding of the end-to-end production process. And again, the Gen AI computational process doesn't quite reach this kind of nuanced and deep insights that humans have in their creative work. The next 3 paradoxes then highlight more the checks and balances that are needed when people work with Gen AI a little bit more. So the first, the Gen AI efficiency paradox, contrasts the speed with which the tools are able to produce outputs, and then on the other hand, the untrustworthiness, so the hallucination of the Gen AI tools and also the sometimes unreliable sources of information that they use. The Gen AI sufficiency paradox contrasts the helpfulness of the tools and how they are sort of useful and helpful with the sort of dependency. So there were concerns that if used very sort of quite a lot, then people may become dependent on the Gen AI tools and start to lose their own creativity as a process. And the final paradox, the intuitive paradox, kind of contrasts the ease of use of the tools and then on the other hand their ambiguity, so getting the prompts right and getting optimal outputs of the Gen AI tools. And as conclusions, we can say that the Gen AI tools as they are today are not going to replace humans as part of the creative process yet, but they work better as an assistive tool where the humans still need to sort of check the outputs and tune the results that they get. We'd also found that bespoke Gen AI tools that are tailored to the specific task and trained with the company-specific knowledge would sort of significantly help the human AI co-creation process. And finally, we'd like to emphasize the training customized to professions and tasks that would support the adoption of these tools. thank you very much. And next, I'd like to welcome on stage the CIO of Posti, Petteri Naulapää.
Okay, so thank you for having me here. And I spent quite a few years back in the days in Otaniemi and great memories about Dipoli, so great to be here as well. I'm sure you all know Posti, but I will say a few words about that anyway. So we are nearly 400 years old logistics company operating in the Nordics and Baltics. We have 3 different businesses. We have a sort of the traditional postal business that is having sort of, should I say, declining volumes. And then we have 2 growth businesses, our e-com and delivery, and then our fulfillment and logistics business. We are a quite big employer, and if we think about our people, we have like 100 nationalities in our company. A majority of the people that we have working for us are actually there every day delivering parcels or letters or other things that are important for our customers. So very much people in the field, and then of course some people in the back office. Now, if we think about creativity and then leadership, it was about, I think 5 years ago, we were working in our purpose and our strategy of that time. And purpose, of course, is something that has a long span of what we want to be in the future. And one of the most important things that we felt at that time was that we need to be better as leaders. We need to have a better leadership culture in the company. And we sort of had a bold saying that we want to have the best leaders as supervisors in our industry in Posti. So looking at the logistical industry and sort of also I was saying that every Posti employee has a right for good and caring leadership. And as part of that sort of activity, we did a lot of things, but I think one of the most important things we did was what we call a caring leadership training program. So we trained every single supervisor that we have in the company. I also participated in that multi-day course on modern leadership in building psychological safety, appreciating people, and sort of building a new culture of working in Posti. And if we look at the results from that, we've been doing that for a couple of years now. We see it in everyday life, but we also see it in employee survey, satisfaction surveys where the leadership index continues to grow. We measure our brand. We are getting measurements on that, and also our financial performance has been getting better all the time. So there is a correlation between the sort of cultural aspects and caring leadership and then the success of the company. And I think that's a kind of area where you can also then build creativity.
Thank you very much, Petteri, and thanks for Posti for being involved in the project. It was great to have you with us. So Posti might not be kind of generally seen as a very creative company, but you actually, this is a spoiler, but you did really, really well in the creativity measures, so the surveys. So how do you see the role of creativity at Posti, and also how do the results that we just presented regarding the role of leadership and positive atmosphere resonate with your experiences?
Yeah, thank you. And it was interesting to hear the results. The financial performance, naturally, we know, but then the creativity results were first a bit maybe for me surprising. But then if I think about our company in a sort of broader sense, we are in a continuous change. I mean, we have a declining business, and we still want to serve the customers well in that business and make money as well. And then we are, highly competitive in our growth businesses, and really, almost every day we need to rethink how we work. So it's a continuous change. And if we think about creativity from a sort of wider perspective, I think it's equally important to have, an innovation project that is looking at e-commerce and how we can sort of be better in e-commerce, for example. Or then we have a team in the field in rural Finland or in Baltics, sort of figuring out how to serve the customer or how to still be efficient in the sort of circumstances there are. So I think it's quite much about really getting the whole organization along. And there I think that the sort of leadership culture building that we have been doing is then the thing that is making the difference.
Yeah, so you could say that this maybe validates in retrospect what you already started before,
yes.
The emphasis on leadership. Excellent. Posti recently went public. So how do you see the opportunities and challenges posed by this change in terms of facilitating this creativity promoting culture?
Yeah, I think actually the change in going to public is maybe smaller than lots of people think. For many reasons. First of all, we've been run like a company for a long time. We have a professional board. We have an owner, or have a big owner who wants to have higher dividends every year. So we are sort of used to the pressures in making the numbers and efficiency and so on. And also we have most of the reporting already before. I think in the long run it will bring us benefits, because then maybe we are in sometimes sort of seen more as a normal company, not just a part of a sort of a government where our sort of background is. And I think that it's important for many of our employees. We actually have very dedicated employees, and I think lots of employees, me included, think that Posti is more than a company. It's something that we serve the sort of people in the communities, and we're part of the society in a way. So now we also have more than, I think, 1,000 owners in Posti of our own company, and that's really great.
Nice. Yeah.
Very good. And final question about AI. So how is AI used in Posti, and how do you see that it contributes to the creativity and profitable business?
Yeah, well, Posti, we are a high volume, low margin business, and obviously we've been using AI for a very long time in developing our business. When thinking of AI, I maybe like to think about two different angles. One is kind of tech first, or in this case AI first, that we have a new technology and try to figure out how can we get the best results while utilizing the technology. And that's sometimes a good approach. And then the second part is that you have a kind of value first approach, and that means that you have a business target or a business goal or an issue that you want to solve. And then you figure out how do you do that, and then you use those things that you need to use to get the result done. And in most of our AI cases where we have the biggest success, we have been going with value first approach. So we have a business problem, we have business sort of figuring out what to do, and then AI is actually the enabler that then makes a change possible. Maybe 10% of the work, but bringing most of the result in a big picture. Then if we think about generative AI, specifically, I think maybe two different approaches there. One is a kind of a self-service AI use. We have the office co-pilots and sort of individual work efficiency kind of things are software developers. We have about 100 software developers, maybe 50 data people developing, and they use GitHub Copilot or Cursor, which is a newer tool or something like that, to be more efficient in their own work. That is sometimes a bit difficult to measure, that what the real benefit of that work is. We know that there's a big benefit. We know that we can help lots of things with that, but the benefit is sometimes open. And then we have those cases where we have generative AI with a more systematical approach that we have the technical people and the sort of business people together figuring out what to do. And those cases we also have a value first, so we see that can we scale what we do and do we really get the benefit at the end of the day. And there we, for example, use it for analyzing customer feedback or some bots in customer service and things like that. But if we think about the creativity aspect, I'm an engineer, I'm very practical, and we are a very practical company in general. I have to say that AI is fantastic and it will bring a lot of things and a lot of possibilities with that. But at the end of the day, it's still just an enabler or a technology or a tool. It's a great tool. But still, I think that the results really come when we are able to drive the change or change the way or be creative in what we do or find new ways of working. And then the technology is there giving you the information that you need for that or automating something that otherwise would take a lot of time. And I think that in our company, and I think there are some other companies, those companies that are able to sort of build a culture where you're able to work together in the company, where you're able to sort of test different things, and you have the psychological safety to sort of also make mistakes and openness and cooperation and so on. Those will be the best companies to utilize AI as well. And I think that's quite much about creativity.
Thank you. That was an excellent way to wrap up many of the findings of our project. Thank you, Petteri. And now I would like to welcome everybody on stage, right, Riikka? So all the researchers, all the company representatives as well.
So we will have the Q&A session now. Everybody's on the stage. Good. And we have mics here. Mark, please. The last one. Thank you. And in the auditorium, when you have a question, please raise your hand. We have Jason and Sign here to carry the mics to you. And when you address your question, speak to mic, please, so that everybody online can hear you. And then online, you can write your questions to the chat. Ida looks after the chat and then brings up a couple of questions from there as well to our researchers and then company representatives. I think we are ready. Who would like to start? Yes, thank you. Jason helps you.
Hello, good morning, everyone. It's not anymore good morning. So my name is Mari-Liisa Permikangas, coming from Finnish Textile and Fashion. And especially I'd like to ask Annika, you from Raisio. You showed us, or we saw the slide, a lot of familiar brands, consumer brands that everybody in Finland knows those brands. And my curiosity during the last years has really been on the topic that how creative we Finns, and now I especially ask your company, how creative you are in branding your consumer brands to the global markets, how competitive you are in your creativity, and is there anything we could do better in Finland, branding our consumer brands to the global markets?
Oh. Big question.
Easy question.
A bit of $1 million question, actually. And yes, obviously, there's a lot of public debate about this. Are we too much of an engineer people as opposed to a sales and marketing country? And to be fair, I think in some parts that's probably true. And I really see a lot of strength coming out of this study for that as well, because this really gives us the backbone to understand that things that may be in an engineer-driven environment can be seen as kind of fluffy, actually drive a lot of results. And you don't need to go far to see how that is happening in branding and in marketing and where it's all about results and growth. So I think to be fair, in some parts, we probably as a nation have a lot to learn there. I think this study will be instrumental in that. And I still think we have a few good examples as well. At Raisio, we have a really big international brand called Mäkiko, which probably most of you know. Actually, most people probably in the audience don't know that we are a surprisingly international company, and we drive it all from Finland. So it's definitely not impossible. We have some good colleagues here to prove that as well. But yes, hopefully new proof coming out of here to boost this. Good question.
Okay, and next one, maybe just by Jason. Yes, thank you.
Hello, my name is Sofia Uitto and I'm coming from Bond Creative Agency. I have a question about balancing out disruptive and incremental innovation as, as financial success is measured by quarter and kind of like the innovation needs to pay off quickly. How do you company representatives, how do you kind of like balance that need for radical disruptive innovation and then kind of like that it has to pay off quite soon?
How about Petri or
Yeah,
Minna?
I can start with that. So if we think about innovation in general, there of course are different things for that. But But we have sort of see different sort of timescales. So we have plans for the short term, this year, next year, and things like that. And then we have sort of medium kind of what kind of service development we want to do within the next, 1.5, maybe 2 to 3 or 4 years. And then we have the innovation process, and we kind of set aside money and also resources to be able to do things that then are long term. For example, the work we do in e-commerce I already mentioned. That's something that started 2 years ago, and it's outside the normal day-to-day budgeting because we all already, every day fighting about money. And that's that sort of separate resources, and we put the best people there to get that. But also there, we do have targets. We do have some things like we want to utilize the competencies we have. For example, warehousing or delivery is not sort of come up with something completely different, but something that strengthens us in the long run. But we kind of want to have that on the side. Otherwise, it will be killed in the corporate life.
Thank you. Next one, please. Yes, maybe in front. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And my name is Lauri Vaisto. I'm from Duunitori. We're a job search platform, work-life media, and a recruitment marketing agency. I think my question is primarily for Eva here. I was very impressed with the correlation between financial performance and creativity. But that also arises the question of causation. And I think there are multiple researches where you can see great results in diversity, transparency, many positive things that are linked to financial performance. But on the other hand, it's also easy to argue that it's easier to reach these results when you have less financial constraints, for example. So how did you consider the causation issue in your research?
That's a great question. Actually, here in this project, our purpose was to kind of build the framework. We tested it with the current data, but we can't get conclusive results exact for that reason because we're looking at a snapshot in time and it's not enough to verify causal relations. So what we're planning to do next is a longitudinal study where we could kind of follow up on also other events that might have an impact on especially the financial performance. This framework that we developed is loosely based on work done in the creative corporate foresight literature, where they did sort of a similar thing with fewer clusters, a little bit different kinds of measures. And they also did a longitudinal study to kind of see that these companies were doing strategic foresight really well, and then 7 years later they were super profitable, and then these others weren't. So they kind of looked at causation from this time perspective. They also did what's called a migration analysis. So if you see kind of in this case, it would be kind of the creativity scores being high, then you are more likely to migrate from bad financial performance towards good ones. So then that could also be kind of an indication of a causal relationship. That's an excellent question, and it is a subject of our future research.
Thank you, Eva. And then maybe a question from the chat, please, Ida.
Thanks. This is quite specific. I would love to hear more about creativity from the perspective of accountants. What changed their mindset? If anyone's able to answer that.
Okay, who would like to take that one? Nina? Oh, Susanna, yes.
Well, that's a good question. And what we noticed actually is that measuring, putting that in the numbers, we are speaking the same language with the accounting, and that opens many people's eyes. We use also language that is not, let's say, creative, but more like an organizational language, which then like puts people to think like, oh, those aspects we have to take into the consideration. And the numbers really kind of speak for it. Like if you can score like, okay, we are here, I'm personally there, Do I want to be there or somewhere else?
Thank you. And now I think our time is up, so I will thank all of the researchers and also company representatives. Thank you very much. And then we need to go on with our program. And next, I would like to welcome Sanna Kulmala to the stage. Sanna is the Work 2030 program director at the Finnish Institute of Occupational Health. And actually, before this project, Creative Leap, we have done this Creative Working Life 2030 project, and then we also partnered with you there. So it has been wonderful to now continue our collaboration. And I think Sanna paints us now a little bit wider landscape, and how could we use these research results? What could be the impact of those? So please, Sanna.
Thank you so much, Riikka. It's super exciting and kind of inspiring to be here. This morning was something I have been really waiting for, because like Riikka described, this has been a few years back already, and as developing competitive working life, which is my daily job, I see so much potential in creativity. So I hope I can paint you a view on the society-wise on this subject. We have heard about creativity from the individual element and then the workplace features. So maybe now looking at the big picture. Developing working life basically means that we are trying a huge national effort to meet our targets from the governmental program. So we need the employment rate to be 80, right? And we need to put our productivity as well as our well-being in a higher place. And then finally, we need to extend our careers. And I think what we have heard today has so many possibilities for each of these boxes to be ticked. And developing is in a national level, it's a lot of doing with sharing good practices and good examples, as today has been a good example for that, as well as providing research and information on the important matters such as creativity. And of course, we need to promote development on the workplaces, as well as all the other public sector agents as well. And that's much to do with facilitating a shared dialogue between different stakeholders to understand what's happening in the work life and what could be done there. So how does it look at the moment in Finnish work life? I think many of you know the kind of the changing paths or the roads that we are on at the moment. We have been doing lots of work in workplaces and in different development projects regarding these four change kind of paths. Then there was all these crises in the middle, as you can maybe, we're not going there anymore, I'm done. But what we are super interested at the moment are the features on your right. So Finnish work life has been developing very well on the long term. So it's more safer. There's lots of good careers. There's like a super strong educational background. We are like the smartest and the happiest people in the world. So my question is, why there's no innovations enough? Why the productivity is so low for the last 20 years? And what's going on with the mental health at the moment, especially with the young people? So this sort of an anemic atmosphere that it's taking place at the moment is not in line with the happiness and the smartness, the expertise that we have here. And that's like the main issue that we would like to tackle. So I think it's really time to get creative. So we have this expertise, we have efficiency, that's something we are really good at, I think. And we have equality. We have all these like strong roots to build on in work life. There's also a great amount of trust in Finland between people and between organizations, between society. And there's super strong base to try new things. But however, we are not doing that much that we could. And this is something I think we can all take a little deeper dive into. And as I was talking about this lack of innovations, we have been studying this a lot due to the fact that these front-runner companies that we have heard today, for example, the great cases on stage, in Finland they are average 3 times more productive, and they employ 1.6 times more people. They are growing, in other words, compared to the mid-tier companies. And we have half of the Finnish companies that are not doing new innovations. Almost half. And not even for themselves. And then there's the portion of doing innovations for markets. So we were surprised by this, and we wanted to understand the reasons behind this. But because we are the ones that we want to promote the positive side of things, so we took a dive on the front runners and the companies that were innovating a lot, and wanted to figure out that what they are doing differently. So what are the elements behind this innovation activity? And we found out 3 especially strong factors here, and we call this a portrait of an innovative company. And as you can see, there's extensive participation of personnel in development work. I can see Posti here with their example of leadership and listening to people and their ideas. And cooperation and network activities. So that's like looking on sides, looking outside, and not like crawling into your small teams or small thinking with yourself, but like having new partners, asking yourself who can we work with, who could help us. And I think there has been a lot of good examples of that too here today. And then the smart use of digital possibilities. We invest a lot into buildings in Finland. So we are very good at that one. But the ICT and now we have these huge opportunities with data and AI to move forward. So we need to be smart with this one. So these factors put together, it's 10 times more likely to be active with innovations. So I think that's super interesting, and I can see the same amplifiers on your study today. So I think we are in a good shared path here. So moving forward with the next chapter for Finland. I think it's time, and I hope you are with me with this one, because you are there in the middle of all the action, right? So I think it's about turning our strong trust that we still have a lot, and the education, the being really skillful, and the strong baseline from the well-being into success. So that's the base we can build on. And I think having more collaboration between employees and employers, researchers and policymakers is one thing that we can be more active to promote this new next chapter. We are in a crossroads in a way that we can either go like shrinking, being smaller and like super efficient and cut things, or then we can choose the path to the growth. And I think there's a good possibility for the growth. This is a super momentum as we are drafting the new working life development strategy at the moment. So with your help, I'm sure we can see there the creativity as the new competitive edge for us. And what that could mean, it could mean that we are developing working life in Finland that has a culture that fosters renewal. So from the routines to renewal, I would say. And there's leadership that fosters cooperation and encounters, as we have learned today as well. It's like the key element. It's something that happens in the interaction between people, so we need these encounters more. And then the actual interactions, when they take place, they are something that fosters participation and inclusion. So we are open to new ways of thinking, different ways to think from different backgrounds, etc. And with this help and with proving these elements, I would state that we could be like the model human-centered, creative, sustainable work for the world. That could be something that we could export from Finland, our working life. It could be a brand, actually. So not being too modest. It's like somebody once said that if sauna was invented in Sweden, it would be something you have never heard before, amazingly. So I think working life could be something similar. So to conclude, I would think that this efficiency and the lack of productivity could be a new narrative for creativity as the new productivity. So, because we know, and based on what I have heard today and you have learned today, that there's this direct link between these things. So maybe it's time to put words in their strong action. So actually we could start to speak more about creativity, maybe measure that in our society as well. And I don't know, not maybe yet like instead of productivity, but at least like along with it. So I think there's a huge possibility there. So this is my kind of I have a wish speech for Society Way and the national development ideas. And I hope I can see you and interact with you more, especially due to the new strategy for that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sanna. Wonderful message. I think we can all take that with us to the next day and make it happen. We can do that.
Is that a promise?
Yes, I could say so. Yes, good. Hopefully everybody else too. Now I would also wish you to give a big round of applause to all of the speakers one more time, to all of the researchers. The company representatives and the deans. Thank you. And then small closing words. What are we going to do next? Just like Eva already described, we are already planning our next step, and that will be a longitudinal study. So we are dreaming about a 5-year study. Creative Leap has been a 2-year study, so that we can really test and look and work with the companies. And to the next research, we will need more than these 5 companies. So if you are interested in collaboration with us, you can come and talk to us, and we can think about that, how we can do things together in the future. So there's possibility to get on board. Then, if you got really excited about creativity, and what can you do next, would be your next question. We have open, free to everybody, online course in Aalto University about radical creativity. Through the QR code, you can enter the platform and you can start learning to be more creative. Very natural step. Then the next one, we have produced a film called Radical Creatives. Again, through the QR code, you can offer the film to you in your email inbox. So you can organize a film screening. The film is about 58 minutes long, and usually we have been organizing discussion and panels around the screenings as well. So this is also a very good opportunity to continue talking about creativity and thinking about actionable steps from this morning on. And then as a sugar at the bottom, we are establishing Aalto Hub for Radical Creativity here at Aalto University. And again, we want to collaborate with stakeholders as much as possible. So if you are interested in that kind of a collaboration, please come and talk to me or to Tuomas. And we are happy to discuss on how we can do some things together in the future. But now, also thanks to you, thank you all the audience in the Lumituuli auditorium. It has been a wonderful morning. I can see that there's little even daylight now coming up. So good to go outside. Thank you also online. It has been wonderful to see how many participants we have had online and quite international group of people. So I'm really happy about this. Thank you, everybody. Let's continue our collaboration.